On December 30th, 2025, a ship left the coast of Western Australia and headed back into one of the most isolated stretches of ocean on the planet. More than 11 years after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared with 239 people on board, the search is starting again. Not because anyone found new wreckage, because the technology changed, and because a company in Texas thinks they can finally do what no one else could. So, is it possible to find it?
The Malaysian Air Force traced the last signs of the plane to a very small island in the Straits of Malacca.
MH370 vanished on March 8, 2014. 40 minutes into a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, the Boeing 777 went silent. The transponder stopped broadcasting. Air traffic control lost contact. And then, for the next 7 hours, the aircraft flew on, tracked only by automated satellite pings that nobody was watching in real time. Those pings ended somewhere over the southern Indian Ocean in an area so remote that Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott called it as close to nowhere as it's possible to be. What followed was the most expensive aviation search in history. Australia, Malaysia, and China spent years combing 46,000 square miles of seabed, an area roughly the size of Pennsylvania. They found nothing except a few pieces of floating debris that washed up on African coastlines thousands of miles away. The search cost over $183 million. Ships equipped with sonar and robotic submarines scoured 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. Aircraft flew search patterns for months. Satellite companies analyzed years of imagery. And after all of that, in January 2017, the governments of Malaysia, Australia, and China jointly announced they were suspending the search.
Australia, China, and Malaysia have collectively decided to suspend the search.
In 2018, a private company called Ocean Infinity took over. They searched for 3 months under a no-find, no-fee contract. They covered another 31,000 square miles using some of the most advanced underwater technology available at the time. Still nothing. And now they're back. Ocean Infinity isn't a government agency. They're not a search and rescue operation. They're a marine robotics company based in Texas that specializes in finding things that nobody else can find. In 2022, they found Ernest Shackleton's ship Endurance, which had been sitting at the bottom of the Antarctic Ocean for over a century. Before that, they located the wreckage of an Argentine submarine that disappeared in 2017. They've also found a Korean ore carrier called the Stellar Daisy that sank in the South Atlantic. Their track record is the reason Malaysia keeps coming back to them. But there's something that makes this search different. Ocean Infinity doesn't get paid unless they find the plane. The Malaysian government agreed to a $70 million contract, but only if substantive wreckage or the flight data recorders are located. If the search turns up empty again, Ocean Infinity gets nothing. That's a lot of fuel, a lot of crew time, and a lot of expensive equipment to gamble on what many people think is an impossible task. They're committing to 55 days of search operations in one of the harshest ocean environments on Earth, with no guarantee of success and no payment if they fail. So, why would they do it? Because the technology changed, and because Oliver Plunkett, Ocean Infinity's CEO, has said publicly that the company has improved its capabilities significantly since their last attempt in 2018. They've learned from other deep-sea searches, they've upgraded their equipment, and they believe they have a realistic shot at finally solving this. But belief isn't the same as certainty. The centerpiece of Ocean Infinity's operation is something called a Hugin Autonomous Underwater Vehicle. It's manufactured by a Norwegian company called Kongsberg Maritime, and it's essentially a self-navigating torpedo equipped with sonar, cameras, magnetometers, and sensors that can map the ocean floor in extraordinary detail. These vehicles are rated to depths of 6,000 meters. That's nearly 20,000 feet, or close to 4 miles down. They hover about 50 to 100 meters above the seafloor, using side-scan sonar and multi-beam echo sounders to create high-resolution images of terrain that's completely dark and under crushing pressure. They operate independently. No cables, no real-time human input once they're deployed. They're programmed with a mission, released into the water, and they go. Ocean Infinity can deploy multiple AUVs at once. In their 2018 search, they ran up to 8 vehicles simultaneously from a vessel called the Seabed Constructor, covering more area in a few months than previous efforts covered in 2 years. This time, they're using their Armada 8605 vessel, a ship designed from the ground up for robotic operations. It's 86 meters long, registered in Singapore, and it's part of a new generation of what Ocean Infinity calls their Armada fleet. These ships are smaller than traditional survey vessels. They burn less fuel. They require fewer crew members because so much of the work is automated and can be controlled remotely from operations centers on shore. The vessel departed from Kwinana, near Perth, on December 26th and arrived at the search area on December 31st. Since their last search in 2018, Ocean Infinity has also upgraded their battery technology. The AUVs can now stay underwater for more than 4 days without needing to surface for a recharge. That's critical because every time you bring a vehicle back up, you lose time. You lose weather windows. And in the southern Indian Ocean, weather windows are everything. The upgraded batteries effectively double the range and endurance of each vehicle. That means they can cover more ground per deployment, reduce the number of launch and recovery operations by half, and operate more safely in rough weather because they don't need to surface as often. But none of that technology matters if they're searching in the wrong place. The search area is based on something called the Seventh Arc, a curved line across the southern Indian Ocean where satellite data suggests the plane most likely went down. It's not a precise location. It's more like a probability zone that stretches across thousands of square miles. Let me explain how that works. After MH370's transponders stopped broadcasting and the plane disappeared from radar, the only way to track it was through automated satellite communications. The aircraft was equipped with a system that periodically sent electronic handshakes to an Inmarsat satellite over the Indian Ocean. These weren't intentional messages, just automated pings confirming the connection was still active. So, Inmarsat engineers analyzed those pings and used something called burst frequency offset data to calculate the plane's likely flight path. They determined that MH370 continued flying for about 6 hours after it vanished from radar, eventually heading south into the Indian Ocean. The satellite ping stopped at 1900 hours UTC on March 8th, which is roughly when the plane would have run out of fuel. The Seventh Arc represents the final ping location, a curved line across the ocean where the plane most likely was when it sent its last automated signal. But it's not a point, it's a line. And even with drift modeling and debris analysis, the possible crash zone still covers thousands of square kilometers. Ocean Infinity's current search is focused on a 15,000 square kilometer area between latitudes 33 degrees south and 36 degrees south, about 1,100 nautical miles west of Perth. That's roughly 5,800 square miles of seafloor. and it's a different zone than what was searched before, based on updated analysis and modeling that's been refined over the past 7 years. The seafloor here isn't flat, it's volcanic, rugged, covered in underwater mountain ranges, deep valleys, and seamounts that rise thousands of meters from the abyssal plain. Water depth ranges from about 1,100 meters in some spots to over 4,000 meters in others. The terrain is described in geological surveys as comparable to the Himalayas underwater: steep ridges, sharp drop-offs, and chaotic topography that makes scanning difficult. And then there's the weather. The southern Indian Ocean sits in a zone sailors used to call the Roaring Forties, latitudes between 40 and 50 degrees south, where westerly winds blow almost continuously around the globe, uninterrupted by land. It's the only place on Earth where ocean water can flow completely around the planet without hitting a continent, which creates some of the highest waves and most violent storms anywhere. The search season is limited to a narrow window between November and April because outside those months, conditions become too dangerous. Ocean Infinity's earlier attempt in March 2025 was suspended after just 22 days because seasonal weather changes made operations impossible. The company cited unavoidable prior commercial commitments as well, but the reality is that you can't operate deep-sea robotics in the middle of a Southern Ocean winter. Ocean Infinity's search started on December 30th. They have 55 days of operational time, but those days won't be consecutive. They'll work when weather allows. They'll pause when it doesn't. And if they don't find anything in that window, the search will suspend again until next season. Which raises the real question of this video. After all this time, after all these failed searches, what makes anyone think this attempt will be different? The truth is, finding MH370 might be impossible. The plane has been underwater for more than a decade. If it hit the ocean at high speed, and satellite data suggests it may have been in a rapid descent when it ran out of fuel, the wreckage could be scattered across miles of seafloor. Pieces could be buried under sediment. The debris field might be so broken up that sonar can't distinguish it from natural terrain. It took 2 years to find Air France Flight 447, which crashed into the Atlantic in 2009. And that search had something MH370 doesn't: a much smaller area to search based on known flight data and a confirmed debris field floating on the surface. Even then, the wreckage sat at a depth of nearly 13,000 feet in complete darkness, surrounded by underwater mountains. The black boxes were eventually recovered, but only after extensive searching with remotely operated vehicles. MH370's suspected crash site is just as deep, if not deeper. 6,000 meters is nearly 4 miles down. At that depth, there's no light. The pressure is over 600 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. The water temperature hovers just above freezing. And the technology to map it accurately has only existed for a few years. Previous searches covered huge areas, but may have missed the wreckage by just a few miles or even less. The margin for error when you're working with satellite ping data from 2014 is enormous. The seventh arc is essentially an educated guess based on calculations that involve assumptions about the plane's speed, altitude, and heading. Small errors in those assumptions translate to large errors in the predicted crash location. And then there's the question of whether the debris field is even recognizable anymore. Aluminum corrodes in salt water. Composite materials break down. Ocean currents move things. Sediment accumulates. After 11 years, what's left might not look like an airplane anymore, at least not to sonar. There's also the possibility, however remote, that the plane isn't where anyone thinks it is. Some researchers have proposed alternative theories based on different interpretations of the satellite data. Others have suggested the aircraft could have glided further after running out of fuel, extending the potential crash zone beyond the seventh arc. Ocean Infinity is betting $70 million that their technology, their experience, and their updated search zone will succeed where everyone else failed. That's confidence born from past successes. But it's still a bet. And the ocean doesn't care about past successes. 239 people were on that plane. Families have spent 11 years without answers, without closure, without knowing what happened to the people they loved. Finding the wreckage would answer where the plane is. It might not answer why. A Malaysian government report published in 2018 concluded that the aircraft's controls were likely deliberately manipulated to take it off course, but investigators were unable to determine who was responsible. They stopped short of blaming the pilots, the passengers, or anyone else. The report essentially said, "Someone did this, but we don't know who." That conclusion didn't satisfy anyone, and it won't change even if the wreckage is found unless the flight data recorders are intact and yield clear evidence, which is a lot of ifs. MH370 disappeared in an era when we can track almost anything. We have satellites monitoring every corner of the planet. We have GPS in our phones. We have air traffic control systems designed to make sure planes never just vanish. And yet, a Boeing 777, one of the most advanced commercial aircraft ever built, flew for 7 hours and disappeared without a trace. It exposed something we don't like to admit. The ocean is still bigger than our technology. There are parts of the world where, if something goes wrong, we simply can't see it. Less than 25% of the global ocean floor has been mapped to the same level of detail we have for the surface of Mars. The southern Indian Ocean is one of the least explored regions on Earth, and it covers an area larger than the entire continent of Europe. MH370 is somewhere in that big, dark unknown. Ocean Infinity's search will continue through the coming weeks, and the world is watching. If you stayed with us to the end, you can leave a like, subscribe if you want more long-form documentaries like this, and feel free to comment whether you think they'll find it or what you think happened that night. Thanks for watching.